Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I'm creating a series of video presentations for the Rankin Technical College AWD Application and Web Development 1111 .NET Framework with Web Databases class. The textbook for our class is, as you see on the screen, ASP.NET MVC with Entity Framework and CSS by Lee Naylor. I have concluded that the book is fairly complex in nature. So before we go through that, I'm going to go through a different book that's called Professional ASP.NET MVC 5 by John Galloway and a host of others. That book leans heavily on a Microsoft series of articles, MvcMusicStore. So I'm going over those right now. Now MVC3, so it's a little dated, but I'm trying to bring it back into the age of MVC5. All right. We left off talking about handling edits, and we mentioned that virtually the get method for handling edits is very similar to the create, and the post is very similar to the create post. Again, as it says, the only difference is rather than adding a new album, we're finding a current instance, all right, and we're setting its state to modified. As it says there, this tells the entity framework that we're modifying an existing album and we're not creating a new one. I already did that. I did an edit. All right. So there's nothing really new there. All right. As an example, I could come in here if I really wanted to and go to this best of minute work, and I can edit it, and let's see. I could maybe make that number 2. Save it, and you can immediately see that change right there. There's the 2. Edit it again, remove that, save it, and it's back to the way it was. No big thing there. I think that all should at least make sense. Deletion, as it says, follows the same pattern as edit and create, with one controller to display the form and another controller to allow the action to take place and to make sure that the deletion takes place. All right, so as it says there, the HTTP delete controller is exactly the same as the details one. All right, for the get. We display a form that's strongly typed to the album type using delete with view content template. Well, the thing is, for lack of better wordage here, you can't give a user too much information. And what I mean by that is you don't want to just say, are you sure you want to delete this? You want to give them all that information that's in there so they know what it is they're about to delete. All right. Now, this is not a joke, but any of you have ever done work, for example, with DOS, the disk operating system. If you do, for example, like a remove star or something like that, it comes back and it says, are you sure? Yes or no. And if you say no, it doesn't do the deletion. If you say yes, it does. In the same way, it says, are you sure you want to delete this? Oh, that's the wrong record. All I do is I click back to list. But if I do click delete, it's gone from the database, so I'd have to re-add it again. So the delete template is shown on the bottom of page 21 of the handout. All right. Shows all the fields for the model, but it says we can simplify it a bit by doing this. All right. So we are asked to come in here and change our delete.cshtml so that it looks like this. See the difference? We can do that. So we'd have to stop our run. Store Manager, we have to get back to delete here. All right. Now you can come up and have your own conclusions as to whether this is a better thing or not a better thing. All right. Again, a lot of times we get these squigglies, and they typically, at least, go away. But I'm going to save here, and I'm going to run it again. Now I'm running it right from delete. Probably not a real great thing. I should have ran it, yeah. I should have ran it right from the controller itself. All right, so right from the store manager. But notice the difference. Okay, for those of you about to rock, we salute you. Now when I click delete, not sure why it's taking so long to do this, but the idea is when you click delete now, what should happen is rather than showing all the fields, it just shows you the name of the album that you're about to delete. If you didn't like that, we could go back and change it back to the way it had been previously. All right? With so much of this stuff, it's a matter of personal choice, the way you want it set up. So clicking the delete button causes the form to be posted back to the server, which executes the delete confirmed action. We want to remove and then save the changes. So it says we're doing three things. We're loading the album by the ID, we're deleting it, we're saving the changes, and deleting it and saving it is really step 2. And then we're redirecting back to the index so they can see that indeed it's gone. All right. Using a custom HTML helper to truncate some text, and the author says, and again, is this a big thing? It depends on what you consider to be a big thing. All right. If you had something where, let's say that you were going to make this smaller, okay, which is what I'm doing here. All right. Could you run into a case where some of these were too big? Well, notice now it's 2 lines. Is that really what you wanted? All right. I'm not going to answer that question because I don't know. All right. So again, now it's 1 line, but when we make it small enough, and imagine you were doing this on a phone. So this is a potential issue, as mentioned on page 24 with the store manager page. The album title and the artist name can both be long enough so they throw off the table formatting. We create a custom HTML helper to allow us to easily truncate these values. So what we want, if you look up on the handout here, and again, this is on page 25, is we want something that looks like this. So we cut it off after about 25 characters. And you just get the ... See that? So it says Razor's helper syntax makes it easy to create your own helper functions. Open the index and add the following code directly after the model line. So let's grab this, copy it. Again, notice that nothing here has been truncated size-wise. All right, so we want to go back to our index. And right after the at model, they said to add this, that helper. So notice, all right, we're saying once you get past that length, to just make it ... So let's save. Let's run this again, which is going to push us back to here. All right, we don't need the old one anymore. And again, we're back to the store manager index, which is just fine. That's the same thing as just store manager right there. But hopefully we see the ... in action now. Again, this is the kind of thing you always have to be thinking about, be cognizant of as you're sitting there and create, when you're creating this, you're thinking about now, you're thinking about the future, you're thinking about the different kinds of people that could potentially be using this, etc. And I'm looking here. This helper method takes a string and a maximum length to allow. Well, it does take a maximum length to allow, but we didn't give it that maximum length. All right. So if the text supplied is shorter than the length, it outputs as it is. If it's longer, it's going to put the ... It says now we can use our truncate helper to make sure that both the album title and the artist name properties are less than 25 characters. The complete code using our truncate method appears below. And I believe what they want us to do, let's stop this run, jump back into our code here, and it looks like they've got everything in here, so I'm going to stop the run. I'm going to jump back into here. I'm in the right file, but jumping here, make that here. So the entire thing is shown here on page 26 of the handout. So I'm going to grab everything, copy it to the clipboard, go back to my code, Control A, Control V. So it's been replaced. Now here's the thing. We're telling it 25 characters, okay? And once it reaches that point to do the ... So we again save all. We run it again. We now do not have a copy of it up there, but you should notice we're back at the index. So now the albums and the titles will be kept below that maximum width. All right. So before that even comes up, it shows it here on the last page of the handout. And it says, this shows a simple case of creating and using a helper in one view. If you want to learn more, and as always, they give you a lot of URLs that you can go take a look. All right, so still loading. That will finish up lesson 5 of 10. Oh, I got it here. Fantastic. It says an error occurred in unterminated literal. Notice that new that's right there in line 19 does not have a double quote before it. So let's stop this run. Let's go back to our code. I don't know if it didn't have one. Oh, it's because there we go. That'll fix that. So again, let's stop the run, save. Let's look. I don't see any errors over here. I should have checked before I ran that. Sorry about that. So let's run it again. Again, it'll come up right here. And it's bringing up our store index, so it should immediately show the ... for us. So while I wait for that to load, when we get done, since we have now finished part 5, that'll push us over to part 6, which is a short lesson, and it's on using data annotations for model validation. All right. So there it is. Notice the ... here, etc. All right. You might have your own opinion as to how that looks, but again, as we start to shrink this, notice it still is over 2 lines. And if we get that down, to the size of maybe a cell phone, all right. And right now, this is not set up to be mobilely responsive, but you get the idea. All right, so again, I'm going to stop the run here. And when I start up again, we will be in part 6, using data annotations for model validation. And I will be back with that in just a couple minutes.